Motoring content creator Bongani, also known as MrHowMuch. So Bongani, MrHowMuch, it's a great pleasure once again, so welcome. So let's start here. I know when I first acquired my first vehicle, I wasn't really sure about what a balloon payment is, and listening to that clip, right, that had various members and entities trying to explain exactly what it entails, it's still pretty confusing, specifically for a first-time vehicle buyer. So where it is a choice for most South Africans, a preferred choice for most South Africans, as of course it allows for smaller installments, especially in our tight economic downturn. But why are banks raising this uptick now, you think?
Greetings, Alicia. Greetings to your viewers. Thank you for having me again. Okay, a simple way to explain a balloon payment, like the easiest way. Say you want a car and it's R500,000, 500,000. The installment would be around 9,600 rand, but you can't actually afford to pay that 9,600. So what a balloon payment does is usually people go for 30% balloons, which means they'll take 30% of that 500,000, put it aside. So that's like 150,000 rand. And then they'll only calculate your finance installment on the remaining 350,000. So instead of paying 9,600 every month, you'd pay roughly 8,000, which for the consumer or the customer gives them more cash flow to buy things like maize meal or water or pay school fees.
Very interesting indeed. I heard one of the speakers during our package there, Bongani, actually saying that this option should be avoided at all costs. But I mean, are other consumer-friendly options? What are other consumer-friendly options, right, as opposed to this one? Because vehicle installments or purchase, unless you are unbelievably rich and blessed and can buy your car cash, most consumers have to choose affordable, budget-friendly options. So you and I spoke recently about the flooding of the Chinese models as they offered more value for money. So let's talk about, of course, the fact that these balloon conditions also vary per purchase, very difficult to understand until maybe you have been lucky enough to pay off a vehicle.
I personally think if you have to consider the balloon, you can't afford the car.
Yeah.
So to just save yourself stress and anxiety, I think you just go for a more affordable car, be it Chinese or German or used or second-hand. I'd say rather go that route than have a car that's 500,000 rand. But now, after 6 years, I'm still going to have to pay off that 150,000 rand. And I know very well there's no way I'll be able to pay off that amount in one go. So in most cases, the balloon just becomes an endless cycle, You have to keep on refinancing it until, instead of paying for the car for 6 years, you end up paying 7, 8 years for a vehicle, which is not ideal.
Absolutely.
So my advice, rather just go for a car you can afford.
Under these economic times, Bongani, I don't think so. So our consumer bodies, right, should in effect be closely monitoring these options, specifically in line with our Consumer Protection Acts, because there are reckless lenders. You and I are aware of this, resulting in the over-indebtedness of consumers. And of course, a car is a big buy item. A lot has to be taken into consideration before you actually buy. But reality is some lenders might not even disclose all these available options. So as to dupe consumers to go for the higher rates, inadvertently being shady, if we can call them that. So how do consumers then equip themselves with the relevant knowledge so as not to be duped?
Yeah, that is a very good question, Alicia. There was a time I wanted to buy a vehicle last year. So I applied, and when I got the monthly installment and the offer, I looked at it and it seemed slightly lower than what I thought. So they told me your vehicle is ready, you've been approved for finance, come take your new car. I was like, oh, cool, thank you.
What's the fine print saying?
Show me the podium. So
Yes.
Yeah, so the podium is basically the document that shows you how much you have to over the next 5 or 6 years. So when I checked that podium, I found that they put in a 30% balloon on my behalf without telling me. So they were the lady like, okay, what's happening here? She's like, no, it's just a balloon, it's harmless, it'll lower your installment. But I told her, but I can afford the vehicle. There's no need for you to add this on. So in a lot of cases, there are a lot of consumers who actually didn't even know they have a balloon. So you really need to be careful when purchasing a vehicle. Ask to see exactly what the costs are. ask to see all the extras they added to your vehicle. Otherwise, at the end of 6 years, you'll find out you owe someone 150,000. Okay, you'll have found out before, but it won't be pleasant. So you really need to do your homework, because the guys at the dealership just want to make their sale. The bank wants its interest, and no one really cares about you except for you.
And hence I said at the start of this interview, Bongani, the balloon payment option has always long been there and part and parcel of most vehicle sales deals. So how do then prospective vehicle buyers utilize these available options, Bongani, so they can actually take full advantage of them as well?
Well, coming back to the balloon, there are some people who argue that it has benefits. I mean, it does. You can get that car you can't really afford right now. You'll have extra cash flow every month. So most people prioritize, what can I say, short-term affordability. They'll be like, so long as I'm fine now, so long as I can afford the car now, whatever happens later, I'll deal with it. So as I said, just go for a car you can afford. If it has to come to balloon, rather avoid it. Save where you can, put in a bigger deposit, and then with a bigger deposit, you can lower your installment. For example, for every 50,000, the installment goes down by 1,000 rand. So if you can try and be patient, save that 50,000, you can lower installment by 1,000 rand each month for the next 6 years. So that's another option that buyers can look to.
And I mean, in the advent of shady car dealerships as well, Bongani, because I would suppose this would be the route that you're talking about when you're saying that just go for a car that you can simply afford. We've seen a lot of these mushrooming shady dealerships where you basically just have to go buy a car. Footstoods is how it's referred to, like you're buying it on auction. So whatever is wrong with it, you're going to keep it. And next time you come back with an issue, it's going to be even more issues. So I'm trying to understand, what other options do consumers then have if they cannot go to the mechanic every week to go and fix their car because they bought it at a shady dealership, or because they can't walk into an accredited dealership that is going to give you a new car, but albeit with, of course, the balloon payment?
Yeah, people need to be very careful of dodgy dealerships. You buy a car and join and never know it until it gives you problems. So I always say, if possible, rather spend that extra 10, 20,000, go buy the vehicle from a franchise dealer. That's a brand, that's a name. So that when you run into issues, those guys have a name to protect. So if something is wrong with ABC, your car from wherever, because they're a big brand, they have to fix it. They have to take the car in, see what's wrong, refund you, or exchange it for you. But if you go buy it from, I don't know, ABC Motors, and ABC Motors like, hey, my man, you bought the car, it's your problem, go fix it. There's not much we can do to help you. Yeah, people do try and go to the ombudsman, but in most cases it drags, and they don't often get the resolution they want. So as I said, I think with these things, you just try and save where you can, but do your best to just go to accredited dealers.
Or utilize public transport in this regard then, Bongani. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much, as always, for your input there. That is MrHowMuch Bongani talking to us about, of course, the reported uptick in balloon payments for vehicle sales in the country.